Welcome to today's deep dive. To start us off, I want you to picture this. You are at the very end of your dental cleaning.
Oh, the best part.
Right, you're sitting in that reclined chair, the glaring overhead light is, finally pushed away from your face, and you just sort of run your tongue over your teeth. They feel incredibly smooth.
Totally.
Your gums are happy, the scraping is over, and you are mentally checking out. You're ready to hop up and get on with your day. But suddenly, right before you're given the green light to leave, the hygienist brings out this tiny little brush.
Yeah, and paints that thin, slightly sticky, sometimes pine-tasting film all over your freshly cleaned mouth.
Exactly. And it completely changes that perfectly smooth sensory experience you just had, like a second ago.
You basically walk out to your car feeling like your teeth are wearing tiny little sweaters.
Yes, tiny teeth sweaters.
Right.
Okay, let's unpack this, because if you're like me, your inner monologue in that exact moment is going, what exactly is this stuff? And honestly, isn't this just a quirky routine they do for kids?
It's a very common assumption, yeah.
Well, we've got a stack of documents today centered around a really thorough educational breakdown from a dental clinic. And our mission for this deep dive is to explore the intense microscopic battle happening on your teeth every single day. We're going to uncover why that sticky film isn't just for children, but is actually like a piece of incredibly advanced chemical armor.
It really is. I mean, most of us do associate that step with childhood dental visits, usually involving some artificial bubblegum flavor or whatever.
Right.
But to understand what that sticky film is actually doing, we kind of have to establish the baseline of what is happening in your mouth 24 hours a day. We need to look at the daily wear and tear your enamel endures. Our mouths are literal battlegrounds.
Yeah, and the clinic's breakdown uses a really vivid analogy for this. It asks you to imagine your tooth enamel as a brick wall. And according to this document, the acidic foods we eat, the coffee we drink, the natural bacteria in our mouths, they are constantly chipping away at the mortar of that brick wall.
Exactly. This process is called demineralization.
But wait, I have to push back on this a little bit. Are you telling me that my innocent morning coffee and my regular breakfast are literally eroding the physical structure of my teeth every single day?
What's fascinating here is the sheer scale of that invisible erosion. Because, we tend to think of our teeth as static, permanent fixtures, like stones set in our jaw.
Right, they feel pretty solid.
Yeah, but on a microscopic level, enamel is a highly reactive crystal lattice. Every single time you introduce something acidic into that environment, a chemical reaction occurs. And it doesn't even have to be a direct acid like lemon juice or black coffee, though. Those certainly do it.
Right, the breakdown mentions the natural bacteria playing a huge role in this too.
Oh, a massive role. The bacteria in your mouth, specifically strains like Streptococcus mutans.
Catchy name.
Right. Well, they feed on the residual sugars and carbohydrates from whatever you just ate. They consume those sugars and excrete lactic acid as a byproduct.
Gross.
It is a little gross. And that acid sits directly on your enamel.
So even if I'm eating like a seemingly harmless piece of bread, the bacteria are basically turning that into an acid attack on my teeth.
They are dropping the pH level of your mouth.
Yeah.
Human enamel is incredibly strong, but it has a critical weakness. It begins to dissolve when the pH drops below 5.5.
Wow.
Yeah, the acid literally leaches essential minerals, calcium phosphate, right out of the enamel structure. That is the mortar of your brick wall being dissolved.
And I imagine you can't just brush that away. Like if the minerals are chemically leaching out, brushing might remove the bacteria, but it doesn't put the mortar back.
Exactly. Brushing removes the plaque, which is essentially the bacteria's, housing development. But the demineralization has already happened. The acid has created these microscopic weak spots.
Like tiny potholes.
Exactly. Tiny voids across the surface of the tooth. You can't see them in the bathroom mirror and you can't feel them with your tongue. But they are structurally compromised zones.
It's terrifying.
And if that mortar continues to be eaten away day after day, week after week, those microscopic voids eventually collapse inward. That structural failure is what we call a cavity.
That dramatically changes the way you think about sipping on a coffee throughout the entire morning. You aren't just getting caffeinated, you're subjecting your teeth to a prolonged invisible siege.
You really are.
Which I guess brings us back to that moment in the dentist chair. You've just had your teeth scraped and polished, the plaque is completely gone. But those microscopic weak spots, that degraded mortar from months of eating and drinking, they're still sitting there. Your enamel is completely vulnerable.
Right, the wall is structurally weak, and this is the exact moment the hygienist introduces the varnish.
Here's where it gets really interesting, because the clinic's breakdown focuses heavily on the physical engineering of this varnish. It's a highly concentrated form of fluoride, but it's deliberately formulated with a resin to be incredibly sticky.
Yes, the texture is key.
Because, think about the challenge here. Your mouth is a wet, humid environment constantly flushing with saliva. Trying to paint a treatment onto a tooth is like trying to paint a wooden fence while it's actively raining.
It's a logistical nightmare for a chemist. If you just applied a liquid or a regular gel, the saliva would dilute it and wash it down your throat in seconds.
Right.
The stickiness is the delivery mechanism. It's engineered to cure and adhere instantly upon contact with moisture. It locks onto the tooth even through the wet saliva, creating this localized, highly concentrated environment right against the enamel.
But wait, if my saliva already has calcium and phosphate floating around in it naturally, which the document says it does, why doesn't my mouth just fix the wall itself? Like, why do I need a sticky varnish to do it for me?
Well, your saliva does try to fix it. That is the natural process of remineralization.
Okay.
But saliva works at a very slow, passive trickle. Given our modern diets, which are, frankly, vastly more acidic and sugar-rich than our evolutionary ancestors,
Oh, for sure.
that passive trickle simply cannot keep up with the rate of destruction. The varnish acts as a massive supercharger for this process.
How does it supercharge it, though? Does the varnish itself contain all the missing mortar?
It contains the fluoride, but it actually leverages your own body's resources, which is super cool. The highly concentrated fluoride varnish acts as a catalyst and a powerful magnet.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it forcefully pulls the free-floating calcium and phosphate directly out of your surrounding saliva and drives those minerals deep into the microscopic voids in your teeth.
So it's actively grabbing the raw materials from my own mouth and forcing them into the holes at an accelerated rate.
Exactly.
But earlier, the source mentioned that this isn't just a simple patch job.
Oh no, it goes far beyond a simple repair. The fluoride doesn't just sit in the hole. It chemically bonds with the calcium and phosphate to create an entirely new crystal structure.
Okay, wait.
Yeah. Normal tooth enamel is made of a mineral called hydroxyapatite. When the varnish forces fluoride into the mix, it replaces a specific component, the hydroxyl ion, and converts the structure into fluorapatite.
Okay, let me make sure I'm visualizing this correctly. It's less like swapping old brick for new brick and more like replacing a water-soluble mortar with a specialized waterproof epoxy.
Yes.
It fills the exact same microscopic gaps, but the new material is fundamentally engineered to repel the acid that destroyed the old stuff in the first place.
That is the perfect way to look at it. You are actively altering the chemistry of your own body for the better. This new fluorapatite crystal is physically larger, it's denser, and most importantly, it's vastly more resistant to acid.
Right.
Remember how normal enamel dissolves at a pH of 5.5?
Right, which we said was a fairly mild acid level.
Exactly. Well, fluorapatite doesn't begin to dissolve until the pH drops all the way down to 4.5.
I mean, that sounds like a small difference on paper. It's just 1 point on the scale.
Ah, but the pH scale is logarithmic.
Oh.
So a drop from 5.5 to 4.5 means the environment is 10 times more acidic.
10 times.
Yes. So by converting your vulnerable enamel into fluorapatite, you are making your teeth up to 10 times more resistant to the acid in your coffee or the byproducts of those bacteria. The varnish provides an invisible, upgraded shield against cavities that lasts for months.
That is a staggering biological upgrade just from sitting in a chair with sticky teeth for an hour. But, you know, this brings us to a major psychological hurdle, and the source material actually tackles this objection head on.
Yeah, I bet I know what it is.
Right. A lot of adults listening to this are probably looking at their own habits and thinking, I brush twice a day, I floss mostly, and I haven't had a new cavity since I was a teenager. I really don't need this superhero epoxy coating. That level of intervention is for kids who don't know how to brush and eat fistfuls of gummy worms.
This raises an important question. Why is the adult mouth actually a uniquely vulnerable environment, sometimes even more so than a child's?
Yeah, why is that?
We assume that once our permanent teeth are locked in and we establish a dental routine, our risk flatlines. But the clinic's breakdown highlights how the landscape of our mouth fundamentally changes as we age. And the first major shift is gum recession.
Meaning just the physical pulling back of the gum tissue.
Yes, it happens to almost everyone eventually. It can be a natural result of aging, genetics, or, very often, decades of brushing your teeth just a little too aggressively.
Guilty.
Right. The gums slowly retreat, and when they do, they expose the hidden architecture of the tooth, the root.
But the root is supposed to be buried safely under the gum line, completely shielded from the mouth.
Exactly. And because it's supposed to be buried, it never evolved to have that hard, protective enamel shell. The crown of your tooth, the part you chew with, has enamel. The root is covered by a much softer tissue called cementum.
Uh-oh. If enamel dissolves at a pH of 5.5, what does this soft cementum dissolve at?
Cementum begins to demineralize at a pH of 6.7.
Wait, 7.0 is completely neutral? That means the root will start dissolving in an environment that is barely even acidic.
A sip of plain sparkling water can be enough to start degrading the root.
Are you kidding me?
I wish I was. It is a prime, completely undefended target. It demineralizes exponentially faster than the crown of the tooth. So when an adult with receding gums gets that varnish applied, the hygienist is essentially painting a layer of artificial, highly resistant pseudoenamel directly onto those exposed, vulnerable roots.
You are manually applying the armor that nature left off.
Exactly.
And if those soft roots are suddenly exposed to the harsh environment of the mouth, does that explain why so many adults suddenly develop intense tooth sensitivity? Like you take a bite of ice cream or a sip of ice water, and it feels like a localized electric shock in your jaw.
Oh, definitely. That sharp shooting pain is directly tied to this exact anatomical issue. Beneath the enamel and the cementum is a layer called dentin.
Okay.
And dentin is completely porous. It's made up of thousands of microscopic fluid-filled tubes, they're called dentinal tubules, that act as a direct highway straight to the nerve in the center of the tooth.
So when the gums pull back, those microscopic tubes are essentially left wide open to the elements.
Precisely. The temperature of that ice water hits the fluid inside those tubes, the fluid shifts, and it triggers the nerve instantly. It's a mechanical response.
Yikes.
But the fluoride varnish solves this physically. Because of its sticky, resinous nature and its chemical bonding properties we talked about, it flows over those exposed root surfaces and physically plugs the openings of those microscopic tubes.
It seals the highway.
It creates a permanent roadblock. By driving those minerals into the surface, it blocks the temperature change from ever reaching the internal fluid. It drastically reduces and often entirely eliminates that severe hot and cold sensitivity.
I mean, being able to eat a popsicle in peace seems entirely worth the minor inconvenience of the sticky film.
I would say so.
But there's another adult-specific vulnerability mentioned in the breakdown, and I think this one is the most surprising of all because it stems from something completely outside the mouth. Dry mouth.
Oh, dry mouth is a silent epidemic in adult dental health. And as the source points out, it is overwhelmingly caused by adult medications.
The clinic specifically calls out incredibly common things: daily allergy pills, blood pressure medications, antidepressants.
There are hundreds of over-the-counter and prescription medications where the primary side effect is a reduction in salivary flow. Your body simply stops producing as much moisture.
So what does this all mean? Let's connect this back to the microscopic battleground we established at the beginning. If saliva is the body's natural washing machine, if it's the only thing diluting that lactic acid from the bacteria, and the only source of the calcium and phosphate needed for natural repair, then turning off the tap is catastrophic.
You are losing the battle on every single front simultaneously. Without adequate saliva, the acidic byproducts from your food and bacteria aren't washed away or neutralized. They just sit there, highly concentrated, actively eating away at the mortar of your teeth for hours. And because the saliva flow is reduced, there are no replacement minerals being delivered to patch the holes. A dry mouth is, by definition, a rapidly decaying mouth.
The natural defense mechanism has basically been chemically disabled by your medication.
Right. And in that scenario, the concentrated varnish is no longer just a nice preventative upgrade. It becomes an absolutely critical, localized intervention. It provides a massive, slow-releasing defense system that your body is temporarily unable to provide for itself.
This is a wild connection to make.
Yeah.
You wake up in the morning, you check the pollen count, and you take a simple over-the-counter allergy pill just so you can breathe clearly through your nose at work.
Yeah.
And by doing that seemingly harmless daily habit, you are inadvertently altering your oral ecosystem so severely that you are fast-tracking microscopic structural damage to your teeth.
It perfectly highlights the complexity of holistic health. We treat the body as a series of isolated systems, but changing the chemistry in one area creates a profound vulnerability in another.
It really emphasizes why relying on the habits that work for you at age 12 might not protect you at age 40.
Definitely not.
Let's bring this all together. We have covered a massive amount of invisible territory today, starting from a tiny little brush and ending up with the structural engineering of our crystal enamel.
A pretty wild journey.
To recap for everyone listening, the next time you are sitting in that dentist chair, the scraping is finally done, and the hygienist brings out that sticky film, you're going to know exactly the level of science being deployed in your mouth.
You aren't just getting a topical polish. You are receiving a highly engineered resin that uses the moisture of your own saliva to forcefully drive minerals into microscopic voids, chemically converting your vulnerable enamel into a hardened, acid-resistant armor.
It's months of invisible, continuous protection. It's shielding those dangerously exposed roots, it's physically plugging the microscopic tubes that cause shooting nerve pain, and it's actively defending your enamel against the hidden side effects of your daily medications.
It's preventative care operating on a molecular level that we completely take for granted simply because we can't see it happening.
And as we wrap up this deep dive, I want to leave you with a thought to mull over, building directly on that revelation about saliva and medication. We just learned that a minor, barely noticeable change in our saliva flow, caused by something as mundane as an allergy pill, can completely compromise our body's natural defense against decay and structural collapse.
Yeah.
It makes you wonder, what other invisible microscopic systems in our bodies are currently relying on a perfect, fragile environmental balance just to keep us physically intact? How many other hidden biological battlegrounds are operating inside you right now, depending on a perfect flow of chemistry that you don't even know exists?